Welcome to Flying Hammer DIY. Today we're going to go over how to build a display stand for your collectibles. I built these stands for my brother to be able to display his Funko Sodas in these glass cases that he purchased from IKEA. These stands needed to fit in the cabinet and also be able to display the Funko Sodas on 3 different levels without blocking the one above. We need 2 legs that are basically shaped like stairs with a 4.5-inch rise and a 4-inch run, and then 2 long shelves to go across the top of each. You can easily modify these plans for whatever size item you want to display just by adjusting the width and the length of the shelves and the height of each stair step. I'm using my table saw to rip 8-inch wide strips for the legs. You can use any type of wood you would like for this project: plywood, pine boards, oak, whatever you think you need to be able to support the item that you're displaying. I'm using 1/2-inch thick MDF. Medium density fiberboard is basically wood fibers that are glued back together to form a sheet. I like using it for craft projects because it cuts real well, sands good, takes paint, and is very smooth, so no worry of splinters. I've adjusted the fence on my saw and I'm now making 4-inch wide cuts for my shelves. Since I'm making a bunch of these, it's easy to set up my table saw and rip several pieces at the same time. If you're just making 1 or 2, you may be able to buy the wood the correct width that you need and avoid this whole step. I then took the boards over to my radial arm saw to cut the appropriate lengths. I wanted 14-inch long shelves, so I set up a stop block 14 inches from my blade so that each shelf will be exactly the same length, pushing against the stop and making the cuts. I repeat the process until I have all the 14-inch shelves that I need for my project. After the shelves are cut, I readjusted my stop block to 9 inches to make the cuts for my vertical pieces. On our side vertical pieces, we need to cut a 4-inch by 4.5-inch square out of the corner to make the tiered effect for our display. Using a ruler, I marked the 4-inch and 4.5-inch on the appropriate sides, and then use a slide square at those marks to make sure it forms a perfect 90-degree angle in the middle. As a technique, I mark an X on the piece of wood that we're going to cut out and throw away. I'm using a battery-powered handheld jigsaw to make the cuts along the lines that we just made. You could use a handsaw or other power tool to make the cuts. You just want them to be as straight as possible. The rise will be visible on your finished shelf. The other portion will be covered up by the horizontal shelves. I'm now sanding all 4 pieces before we assemble them. I'm knocking off the sharp edges, the corners, going over the flat pieces to remove any pencil marks we may have made on there in preparation for assembly. I'm using my slide square again to draw a nice straight line on the shelves to mark where I want to attach them to the vertical pieces. I'm going to use my drill to pre-drill 2 holes on each side for nails. This will help prevent the wood from splitting as we attach it. I'm going to do a quick sanding just to knock off any burrs that were left from the drill and to remove the lines that I drew on the shelves with the pencil. I'm using wood glue on the top to hold each shelf in place. I am also going to use a couple finish nails to hold it until the glue dries. I have this little wood spacer that I'm going to use on each side, and that will ensure the shelf overhangs exactly the same. After I have the shelf exactly where I want it, I'm going to use my drill to pre-drill down into the vertical pieces. We already made holes in the shelves, so this works as a perfect guide. The wood we're using is only a 1/2 inch thick and could split when we drive the nail in there if we don't pre-drill. I'm now going to use a couple finish nails to attach the pieces. That will hold them together while the glue dries. The whole thing would probably stay together with just the glue, but the nails give it a little extra support, especially while it's drying. I'm now repeating the process on the other side, adding some wood glue, using the spacer to line up the shelf where we want it, using the drill to pre-drill down into the vertical piece, then adding finish nails to hold it together. For the bottom shelf, remember to add glue to both sides, since the top is holding everything together. For the bottom, since we're doing both sides at the same time, I'm only pre-drilling the front, putting a nail in, getting the other side lined up exactly where I want it, pre-drilling and adding the nail. Then I'll go back and add the nails on the back side of the bottom shelf. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gives you some ideas on how you can make some display shelves for your items that you have at home. Thank you for visiting Flying Hammer DIY, and please click the link below to visit the Bearded Barbarian Collectibles YouTube channel.